Now that Pearl has been in the map pool for almost a year, I'm sure everyone knows how to play the map by now, right? Surprisingly, there's still a lot of variations on how to play, what agents to pick, and what the most effective tactic available really is. So let's look at how the pros are doing it. Let's break the map down into segments and figure out how to attack or defend them. Starting off, we have A main. Attackers start with a slightly stronger angle, with two small choke points here and here, with the downside that they are further away from those angles than the defenders are. So with a little bit of stalling utility, something like an Astra Smoke, a KO Flash, it's pretty easy for the defenders to wrestle control back from the attackers. This spot is where a lot of initial fights are going to start, and this is usually a good thing for defenders. This is space that defenders can take control of early, usually will be favored in fights. Next up is Art, and with how many possible traps defenders can spring, you would be safe storing the Mona Lisa here. There are so many 90-degree angles, corners to check, and crossfires waiting to happen, that it's almost impossible to penetrate in isolation. You will often see a Killjoy setup here with something like a turret on top of the box, or an alarm bot and Nano Swarm ready to catch out attackers when they do try and take this space. The positive for attackers is that this art space is absolutely crucial for a retake. So if you manage to take this space away from defenders, your chances of the spike timer hitting 0 will increase dramatically. Logically, next we have to talk about the A site, and there is a lot going on here too. For attackers, there's 3 different corridors for them to worry about, as well as the close right angle and back sight, which ends up with 1 more angle than they're able to smoke with Astra. Plus, defenders can use all 3 of these lanes when they go for a retake, when the smokes do fade, so you'll need to be taking control somewhere rather than just planting the spike and hoping for the best. Some teams, like Na'Vi, prefer to smoke the right side. They'll smoke Art and they'll smoke Flowers, and they'll use utility to clear out dugout, something like a Sober Dart, Fade Reveal, or even a Raise Nade. Any utility that will help clear out this dugout area will be super helpful. Other teams, like the Guard, prefer to split their A take, coming through heavily through Art after they've taken that control, and that way they only have to worry about the 2 angles, the back sight, when they come through A main and they're ready to get the spike down in a position that already has a great position to stop a retake. Now for defenders, you should be using all these angles to your advantage. Sit in annoying spots, create opportunities for you to get multi-kills, and if you can't do that, play back and play for a retake, because retakes on this site are always going to be strong. Anchoring the site or playing a heavy retake, both super viable strategies, but you do need to make sure you're communicating to your team which you want to do, because half a commitment on either won't cut it. The next segment of the map to talk about is mid, or as I like to call it, Among Us. This is an attack-sided space. A lot of defending teams will complain about attackers taking mid from them, but this space is supposed to belong to the attackers. The narrow double door peek is almost instantaneous death, and if you peek out of Art, you're going to be facing into attackers that are already out in the open in a multitude of angles that you're not going to be ready for. There's one simple solution to this: don't peek it. The only way to take this space for defenders is to invest a lot of utility, and with how easy it is to defend both Art and B-Link, it often isn't worth the investment. You might think, but giving up mid will give the attackers faster rotates, and surprisingly, on Pearl, the difference between rotating through mid and through CT spawn is negative. You're better off going through your own spawn between the mains, and you need to be absolutely confident you've cleared any traps before you even think about running through Art or B-Link. Even if everything goes your way, and you're allowed to run knife out the entire way from A main to B site through B link, you're still going to be staring into the face of a defender who can rotate 8 seconds faster than you can. If you made it through Among Us mid, you know how to face the challenges of the dreaded B link. One of the narrowest corridors in any map, 3 different power positions for defenders to be playing in, and an infinite number of trap plays ready to be sprung. I'll keep it simple. As an attacker, this place is hell. It is a meat grinder that you will be punished for entering over and over and over again. If you really want to use this space, be methodical about it. Throw down an Astra Smoke so that you can cut off 2 of the long angles. Clear out all the potential contact points in the first half and proceed with caution to the promised land of the B site. Or just do what I do and wait for your entire team to get down B long and shoot them in the back of the head. but try not to do what I usually do and whiff all of your shots completely. Now, Connector is one of the most interesting parts of the map. It's really rare for attackers to have such direct access to the defender's spawn and to be able to go between sites at a moment's notice. If you do manage to get through the impenetrable fortresses of B-Link or Art, you'll be rewarded with this phenomenal piece of map control. You'll often see a Killjoy or an Astra set up here, agents that on any other map would be anchoring a site, which really shows how much value it holds. As a defender, make sure you don't die here. You'll be putting the rest of your team in an almost impossible position, so you need to value your life as if your next Swiftplay E-Date depends on it. Everyone's favorite part of Pearl is B-Long, right? Who doesn't enjoy a pack of 5 enemies, running them down with flashes, reveals, dogs, mollies, and stuns? There's a reason defenders hate this part of the map. It's because they're supposed to. Similar to mid, if you want to take any control of B main, you'll need to invest a lot. Some teams will even focus their entire team composition on taking this piece of map control, with a Fade, a Breach, a Raze, or a Neon. If you do have a comp like this already, by all means, attempt to take this space, but it will be a brawl to the death, and one team is not getting out alive when you start it. Alternatively, you can do what I prefer to do, and ignore it completely. In Na'Vi's game versus Vitality, they peaked B-Long a total of 3 times in their 12-round defensive half, and all 3 of those were CNED holding deep with an op. They didn't fight up once, bringing us neatly on to B-site proper. Similarly to A-site, it's often very defender-sided. There's multiple access points, all with different verticalities, which makes it almost impossible to set up good crossfires and trades. Killjoy players will usually demonstrate how to defend this site. Don't. Setting up a Killjoy turret or an alarm bot to take contact will usually be enough to initiate a retake. But that doesn't make post-plant here impossible. Planting in the right spots gives you impeccable sightlines from all the way down B long, so if you manage to nullify the smokes on a retake, you can usually hold a long headshot angle that is almost impossible for defenders to fight. This is part of the reason that we're seeing a fair amount of Viper played on Pearl now. A simple retake wall, such as this one, will cut off most of the long sightlines and force attackers to play post-plant on site in some very unfavorable positions. A solution to this can be to simply not stop pushing. This Na'Vi execute is beautiful to watch and creates chaos as far back as CT spawn. With a dart back sight or connector, a smoke on top site for Cena to dash into, and a knife to clear back sight, they can put defenders on the back foot in a way that you don't often see, but it's a really great way to interrupt a retake before it even begins. With pretty much the whole map broken down, here's how I look at Pearl as a whole. It's a little bit clustered, but it gets across a lot of what I've talked about. This is by no means the only way to play the map. I've watched a ton of teams play this way and be successful, but I've seen a fair amount absolutely crumble to a strategy that throws all of this out the window. It's about finding what works for you and sticking to your own plans. Team comps have been fairly varied on Pearl, but there is one agent that really stands above all the rest. Astra has an 88.9% pick rate on this map, and she is far and away the best controller on the map. This is for 3 main reasons. Her utility is global, setting her team up for an execute while she exploits space on a lurk. Her stall power with the gravity well stops pushes on the defense half and stops diffusers on the attack, and her pullback stars, which allow teams to cross into uncommon angles and take space without putting their lives on the line. Fade and Killjoy follow shortly after with a 66 and 74% pick rate respectively, but neither of them are locked in picks, with one of the most popular team comps choosing the Sova instead of the Fade, and Viper and Cypher both being pretty viable options to replace the Killjoy. Breach also offers a lot of utility, especially for taking a site, and can help with defending that tricky B long space as well. Viper is also great as a second controller and will improve your retakes significantly, but both of them are hard to fit into a dynamic composition, so you'll often have to pick a playstyle and very much stick to it. You'll also see Neon in a fair amount of pro compositions. This is usually paired with the Breach and will be looking to take advantage of the B long space on defense half, and also looking to exploit timings with how fast the rotates are on CT side, as well as trying to cut down the rotate times a little bit on attack side, although it's not quite as relevant because you need your team to be with you to be able to plant the spike. One other composition you might have seen a lot lately is the Loud composition. They popularized it at VCT Lock-In. There have been a few other teams that have played it before and since, but they were the ones that really made it mainstream, and that was the Viper, Harbor, Sky, Jet, and Killjoy. Now with this, it really improves your retakes. You have the Viper to be able to help with your retakes on B long, And you also have the Harbor, whose wall creates opportunities for fast retakes. With having the Harbor wall and the Viper wall, you can pretty much always have Belong walled off in some way. Harbor, of course, has his Cove that helps with defusing the spike. Harbor has a lot of really good utility on Pearl, honestly. He has a couple of really good walls that will help you take a lot more space than what you can really do with Astra. Walls like this, which will completely cut off art and connector space. There's also walls for the retake where, as I say, you can just cut this angle off, or if you're on attack, you can cut all of these angles off very easily. Even on A site, you can throw a wall like this, which cuts off all 3 angles when you're executing the site, and kind of gets rid of the problem that you have with Astra, where you can only smoke 2 sides at the same time. He has a really good kit for Pearl. I think he's really well suited for the map. He has some really good utility, and I would definitely recommend giving him a try. Overall, Pearl is a really great map, and I feel like not enough people have given it a chance. It's been in the pool for nearly 9 months now, and very few teams pick it, and I feel like that's a bit of a disservice. There's so many niche techs, so many trap plays, so many executes that you can do on this map, and if your team has good synergy, you're going to have a good time. I genuinely believe that a team that has the right approach to Pearl will be able to take on any team, whether they be much better than them or whether it's just stomping a team that you'd really expect to win. However, I do think there's a lot of space for innovation on Pearl, and this is by no means the only way to play the map. I've seen countless teams do different things with Pearl, and all of them are really interesting. I would definitely recommend going to watch a couple of VODs for Pearl. I especially love watching Na'Vi play it, but the Guard have been extremely impressive on it recently, and I would definitely recommend watching some of their VODs from it. But overall, it's a map that, if you have down, will be a really good pocket pick for your map pool. And if you are just using this for ranked, being able to IGL on Pearl, the map that most people don't really like, is going to be a really helpful skill that will help you win more of your ranked games and help you rank up. So knowing how to play the map, both for yourself and for your teammates, is a great skill to have, whether that be in pro play or just in ranked games. Thank you for watching. I'm going to be trying to put out more stuff like this in the near future, so if you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and also follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. That's where you're more likely going to see what I'm looking at next, and if you do have any suggestions of what you want to learn, feel free to send it me either on there or comment it down below.